From a pilot forced to eject after his plane bursts into flames during a particularly rough landing, to the shocking moment a plane in Antarctica loses its landing gear and slides off the runway, here are 5 incredible videos of plane landings that went horribly wrong. Located within the capital of Costa Rica is the Juan Santa Maria International Airport. Back on April 7th of 2022, a cargo plane owned and operated by the company DHL departed the airport around 9:30 in the morning. Within an hour, the pilot realized something was wrong with the landing gear and asked to turn back. Upon landing, smoke could be seen coming from the landing gear, and a few moments later, the plane crashed off the side of the runway.
Madre Santa, man. Uy, man. Carepicha, man. Dios santo, man. Ay, man.
As the plane crashed, it actually snapped into 2 pieces. But given that it was a cargo aircraft, there were only 2 crew members on board, and thankfully, both were completely uninjured. Emergency crews were quick to arrive, and the airport was closed for several hours afterwards. A company spokesperson said that they were investigating the expensive incident, but were just glad that nobody was injured. The Kandahar International Airport in Afghanistan was first built back in the 1950s. It experienced many battles in the years that followed, before being almost entirely rebuilt in 2007 by the United States. During that time, the Iraq War was in full swing, and the airport was used frequently by Afghani forces and NATO allies. On May 14th of 2009, 2 Royal Air Force Harriers were returning from a mission to this airbase when things went horribly wrong. After the first plane landed successfully, the second came in at a high rate of descent. Just before landing, the pilot went into full power, likely in an attempt to pull up and abort landing. But the plane was too low, and the tail struck the ground. The landing gear then collapsed under the weight of the plane, and everything just burst into flames. The pilot was brave enough to stay with the aircraft for quite a while before finally ejecting and floating to safety. To make things worse, the plane was actually carrying live bombs at the same time of the crash from a mission they just ran. So, despite how bad things were, it could have ended much worse. As for the pilot, he suffered only minor injuries, and it wasn't long before he made a full recovery. King George Island is the largest of the South Shetland Islands in Antarctica. The island is of great interest to scientists, and although there are no cities, there is an airport to allow people to arrive and explore. Given that this is Antarctica, though, the runway at this airport consists of little more than a field of ice. Back on the 13th of March in 2017, a shocking video captured the moment a large plane crash-landed at this airfield. As it came close to touching down, it struck a mound of ice, breaking some of its landing gear. This caused it to lose control and crash into a wall of snow.
Viene bien. Vamos a aterrizar. Sí, señor.
Aftermath footage shows the plane tipped over on its side with damage to a wing and an emergency vehicle quickly driving to the scene. It was a pretty dramatic crash, but despite this, none of the 48 people on board were injured. As for how they repaired the aircraft on an ice-covered island with little real infrastructure, your guess is as good as mine. The city of Pontianak is the capital of the province of West Borneo in Indonesia and one of the closest cities to the equator worldwide. Back on February 16th of 2019, a Lion Air flight was scheduled to arrive in the city. They left Jakarta around 2 in the afternoon and along the way encountered some rough weather. Upon coming in for a landing, the aircraft skidded off the runway and crashed nose first into the grass, and the whole ordeal was caught on camera from inside the plane. Miraculously, terrified passengers were able to escape out of the side exit, and there were no serious injuries of any kind reported. Aftermath footage shows the wheels of the plane almost completely sunken into the ground, with passengers climbing along the wing to escape. It was undoubtedly a terrifying moment, and one I'm sure those involved will never forget. The story of Jakarta is truly incredible. What was once a small hillside port just a few meters from the river ended up becoming the capital of the 4th most populous country in the world, Indonesia, and home to a major international airport. Yet, where there are airports, there can be plane crashes and missed landings. Back on March 20th of 2021, a Trigona Air Boeing 737 freighter was performing a cargo operation between the Indonesian cities of Jakarta and Makassar, a pretty routine trip. It departed from runway 24 at Halim Perdana Kusuma International Airport and began climbing. At around 3,000 feet, the crew noticed an issue with the landing gear and they immediately turned back for the ground. Upon arrival, the landing gear all collapsed and the plane skidded off the runway.
Wah, gesrot, Rick. Gesrot. Gesrot, Rick. Wah, nggak bisa terbang, Rick. Wah, gila gesrot. Gesrot.
Thanks to the speed of action by airport authorities and a stroke of luck on the part of the crew, no injuries were reported, although the aircraft suffered considerable damage. Landing gear problems are a serious concern, because when they occur, there isn't much you can do until after you're back on the ground. It's one of the many issues engineers hope to fix as time goes on to avoid incidents like this from occurring. It was just like any other day back in 2003 on board the USS George Washington. The ship was stationed somewhere off the coast of Virginia to perform qualification tests, and those on board later told reporters nothing seemed out of the ordinary. As a single-seat FA-18 Hornet came in for a landing, the mechanism used to stop the jet, known as the arrestor cable, violently snapped. This meant that the pilot only had seconds to act as his jet was quickly heading for the ocean, and there was no longer any possibility to stop the plane. Right as the aircraft falls off the side of the ship, the pilot ejects. But the excitement didn't stop here. Due to the force of the arrestor cable snapping, it sent the metal wire shooting back towards crew members on board the ship. In the video, you can see one of the sailors actually jump over the cable twice in a row, while others weren't so lucky and were knocked over by it. At the end of the day, both the pilot and everybody on board survived without major injury. Still, it was an expensive day for the Navy, with the cost of replacing that FA-18 being somewhere in the $60 million range. Well, that about wraps things up for this video. If you enjoyed it and want to see more just like it, be sure to click the link on screen now. With that, thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in next time.